Hello, thanks for joining me. Now, when it comes to shopping, women influence the majority of all purchases. Yet when it comes to the people who actually run the shops, women are in the minority. Well, that's according to a report from Women in Retail and consultancy Elixir. They've found that only 20% of executive retail teams are made up of women. Well, here to talk about it is Fiona Davies, a director of Women in Retail. Fiona, why does it matter?
Well, it matters because for retailers, understanding the customer is really at the core of business performance. And if there simply aren't enough people on the board, and in fact the percentage at board level is even lower, there's only 10% of board places held by women, then the evidence in the report demonstrates that the business simply doesn't understand its customer as well as it could do. In short, having customers on the board through having a better gender mix results in better business as a result of delivering a better customer experience. And there's lots of evidence out there that we could see that suggests that retailers aren't doing that as well as they could be.
So, Fiona, this lack of women at the top of big businesses is not in any way exclusive to retail, but what do you think you could do in retail to try and balance things out a bit?
Well, it isn't exclusive to retail by any means, but one of the things that is relatively unusual in retail is the percentage of people who are employed in the retail business. 60% are women. So it isn't that we haven't got the pipeline of women coming through, but there is evidence that they're not reaching the board teams and therefore able to influence the customer experience and to effectively walk in the customer's shoes, as we say, in order to help the business deliver a better performance. There are a number of things that the study identifies that point to some of the reasons why that might be the case. And there's a huge amount of consensus between men and women, because we spoke to women and men in slightly different proportions, but a good representation of both sexes spoke, and the consistency was quite remarkable. And all were saying that actually there simply aren't enough role models of women. There aren't enough female role models in the retail business to encourage younger women to put themselves forward and indeed to be selected. Not enough appointments are made with a balance of gender within the selection process. And there seems to be this misnomer that flexible working is a problem in retail, which is strange because at the more junior levels and on the shop floor and elsewhere, the majority of people indeed are flexible. So why couldn't that be possible at a more senior level? And we have a case to put forward for how that can work.
Now, Fiona, you say in your report, it mentions the demise of retailers like BHS and Austin Reed, suggesting that if there had been more women on the boards, we may not have lost those iconic retailers. Is that what you think?
Along with many of the public, I'm sure, we're incredibly sad to see the loss of BHS and to reflect on all of those people who've lost their livelihoods at this point as a result of the business going. And personally, I feel very sad because I used to work for BHS. There is evidence that there just wasn't enough understanding in that business and in other businesses about the customer. I don't know enough about the gender balance on the BHS board or in Austin Reed to comment on that specifically, but at the core of this, it's all about understanding your customer. And if you're not walking in your customer's shoes and you're not understanding what they're thinking now and indeed what they're going to be thinking tomorrow, then the retailer is simply falling behind. And the customer has spoken quite loudly about how they feel about the loss of BHS, and those customers on the high street who've been interviewed have pointed to exactly that.
OK, Fiona Davies from Women in Retail, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Now, the oil giant Shell says it's to dramatically cut investment.